Start recording. All right, so this is my attempt to show off the Raspberry Pi RISC computer. This has gone through a number of different changes. The current version that I have printed is not the final design. Matter of fact, I have gone through a complete redesign. I have just not printed it yet because I needed some other parts to make sure I have what I want. But you can see here in my screen, this is my Raspberry Pi RISC computer, okay? It's a pretty simple design. This is your computer up here. It will be a touchscreen interface. And it will hinge, and you can see if I've got it mated so that I can actually kind of show you how it hinges closed. Now it's not exactly mated perfectly, so it hinges a little weird, but it was a quick job. Anyway, you can see there that there is this little metal rod here, and then this, when it comes back, you can't go back too far, of course, because right now it shows going into it. It doesn't actually go into the metal there, of course. So this is your touch screen. Basically all that's up here, if I turn this off, is just the touchscreen. And you can see that there's an HDMI cable here, right there, and there's a power connection here. Okay, so I still have to figure out where I'm going to run those wires. That's more from printing it and just seeing how I can fit the wire in, but I think I have to run probably down, like right here, down along this, and maybe tuck it underneath this edge here and come out down here, so that it's a little bit closer. It would come out right around here, and it would come out and probably show for just a little bit and go right under, or I could try to go a little lower and have it come right into here. But some exposed wires might actually make it more cyberpunk in the fact that it looks like I threw it together. So I kind of might want that jankiness. Anyway, if we turn on the casing here. Okay, so now let's talk about the actual setup itself. Okay, so this is my top casing. If I turn that off, you can see in here that I do have room for everything. So there's going to be a USB cable that will go from here out to this USB-C here. Now I can always rotate how the Pi sits if I want, but the HDMI cable is right here too. And then the USB, which will connect to the USB touchscreen, is right there. So I want these close, and I can run this cable here. Now for the battery pack, I have this little connector here, and that's going to connect here on these batteries. Now, I don't know if I have this oriented right. It might be that the battery right now, the wiring is on this side, but I'll make sure that I rotate it properly so I can just run a little wire right here. And if nothing else, I just run it around from the side. But everything should fit. Here's my cooling fan. Here's my Raspberry Pi RISC compute module and the developer board. So this new design will fit everything and will include everything. It's just that my current design is not laid out the way this design will end up being. But you can see that everything should fit in theory. It's just a matter of figuring out where my wires are going to run and then maybe figuring out a way to kind of hold them down. Maybe some little zip tie cable mount type things. But yeah, that's my RISC computer there. Of course, this is going to be for a cyberpunk event. You can see that this is going to strap around my wrist. This smaller section is for my wrist itself, and this is for higher up on my forearm. I'm going to have to run some kind of strap through the bottom of this. I haven't quite figured that part out yet. But I want to print this whole thing to kind of figure out how my wiring, and then I'll eventually print this arm part, but I've got to figure out where I'm going to put the straps for it. But that's pretty much it. It's going to be a basic little Linux computer, nothing too complex. Probably run something like Kali Linux or possibly Kodi. Basic video and sound, and maybe connect to a Bluetooth speaker. Yes, I could do a cell phone, of course, but the point is that I actually want to build a real RISC computer that actually functions like a computer. And a Raspberry Pi functions pretty well as a Linux computer. It actually functions better than any Linux cell phone I use, to be honest. So, at least the one that I bought and am trying to test out. But this is the setup. So, tell me what you think about that. All right, go ahead and stop this recording.